You know what's funny about silence? It starts to sound like safety after a while. 13 years of no phone calls, no texts, no birthdays, no Merry Christmas, Mom, just silence. And then one day, knock knock. That's how it began. When I opened the door that Saturday morning, there he was. My son Ethan, the same boy I raised, fed, cried over, now a man I barely recognized. He was standing there with his wife Emily, holding designer suitcases like they were trophies. "Hey Mom," he said, smiling that fake, confident smile people use when they already decided how this conversation's going to go. "As your son," he continued, "I think I'm entitled to some of this." He gestured toward my house. "We're moving in. You have all this extra space anyway." I just stood there, 13 years without hearing his voice, and the first words out of his mouth were about entitlement. Not love, not regret, not "I missed you." No, he came for money. You see, word had spread that I'd won the state lottery, $22 million after taxes. My name had been in the local paper, and somehow, that number did what my love never could. It brought my son home. I smiled. The kind of calm, careful smile people mistake for weakness. Inside, my heart was pounding, but not from pain this time, from realization. This was my moment. Emily stood slightly behind Ethan, her sunglasses pushed up into her perfect hair. She looked around like she was inspecting real estate. I could already tell she was the planner here, the quiet strategist behind the operation. Ethan had always been impulsive. Emily, calculated. "Well," I said slowly, "this is interesting." Ethan blinked. He wasn't expecting calm. He wanted tears. He wanted me to cry, hug him, and thank God that my boy had finally come home. But instead, I stepped aside. "Come in," I said. "Let's talk." Inside, the house was bright and quiet. My dream home, the one I bought after the lottery win. It had white walls, high ceilings, and sunlight streaming through big windows. They both walked in like tourists visiting a museum. Their eyes darted everywhere. The art on the wall, the chandelier, the grand staircase. Emily muttered, "It's smaller than I thought." Smaller. Of course. Ethan sat down on the sofa like he owned it. "I'm glad you're doing well, Mom," he said. "You deserve this." His tone didn't match his words. It wasn't warmth. It was calculation. Then came the pitch. "We thought, since we're family, it just makes sense to stay together. Family should stick close. Especially now that you have, well, all this." He waved his hand toward the house again. Like my life was a shopping mall. I looked at him. My own son. And for a moment, I saw flashes of the little boy he used to be. The boy who scraped his knees playing baseball. The boy who hugged me after his father left. The boy who promised he'd always take care of me. Then I blinked, and that boy was gone, replaced by a man who saw me as a walking ATM. "Ethan," I said softly, "before you say another word, there's something you should know about your mother." He frowned, unsure what was coming. "I've learned a lot in 13 years, I said. "Especially about people who only come back when there's money involved." Emily spoke up for the first time. Her voice was sweet like honey, but her eyes were sharp. "Barbara, we know there's been distance, but family is family. We want to rebuild our relationship." Rebuild. That word made me laugh. "You can't rebuild something you burned down yourself," I said. She blinked, trying to hold her fake smile. Ethan cleared his throat. "Mom, that's not fair. We were going through a lot. My business was starting, money was tight. You wouldn't understand, wouldn't I?" I interrupted. "Because last I checked, I was the one working 2 jobs when you were in college. I'm the one who took loans to pay your tuition." He looked away. That silence told me everything. He wasn't here to rebuild. He was here to collect. "Sit down," I said, pointing to the sofa. For the first time in years, he obeyed me without question. Funny how power shifts when you stop begging. I sat across from them, folded my hands, and smiled again. "So," I said, "tell me about this plan of yours. How long were you planning to stay? What exactly do you think you're owed?" Ethan hesitated. Emily filled the silence. "We just thought it made sense. You're alone here, and we could help. Look after you. Make sure you don't get taken advantage of. The words were dressed in care, but the tone was dripping in greed. Taken advantage of? I repeated. You mean like showing up uninvited after 13 years to demand free housing and access to money you didn't earn? Ethan's mouth opened, then closed. Emily looked offended, like I just accused her of something unthinkable. I leaned back in my chair. The last time we spoke, Ethan, you said I was holding you back. You said successful people don't drag their past around, that I was your past. He flinched. He remembered. That was different, he said weakly. I was young, stressed. I didn't mean it. You were 32, I said. Old enough to know words matter. Emily touched his arm. Barbara, people change. Yes, I said. Some do. Others just change targets. For a few seconds, the only sound in the room was the faint ticking of my wall clock, and then I smiled. Well, I said. It's been a long time. Why don't we catch up? I'll make coffee. I walked to the kitchen, taking my time. I wasn't making coffee for them. I was making a statement. This was my house, my rhythm, my rules. As the coffee machine hummed, I looked out the window at my garden, the one I planted after I won. Roses, lavender, lemon trees. Every bloom reminded me of how far I'd come, since the days when my son's rejection used to break me. I carried the tray back and set down 3 cups. Ethan smiled, trying to regain control. It smells great, Mom. Good, I said. You'll need it. We have a lot to talk about. And that's how it started, the longest conversation of my life. Not because of how much we said, but because of everything that had been left unsaid for 13 years. If you're watching this, subscribe. Because what happened next? Let's just say some moments are worth savoring. Ethan leaned back on the couch, acting casual, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. He was nervous. He thought he could walk in, throw around a few were family lines, and melt me like butter. But that version of me, the desperate mom who used to cry into her pillow when he wouldn't answer her calls, she was gone. Still, I let him talk. Mom, Ethan started, forcing a soft smile. I know it's been a long time. We both said things we regret. I was immature back then. I nodded slowly, pretending to listen. In truth, I was studying him. He had that same charm his father once had, the kind that could sell ice to a snowman. But behind it, I saw fear. Emily spoke next. She placed her hand gently on Ethan's knee, playing the role of the supportive wife. Barbara, you don't have to be alone. You have this big house, and we've been thinking, maybe we could stay for a while. You know, help you out. Keep you company. Help me out. That phrase almost made me laugh. I looked around the living room. The same living room, where Ethan once told me I was too emotional, where he packed his bags and slammed the door 13 years ago. Now he wanted back in. Not for love, but for comfort. Help me out, I repeated. That's sweet. Tell me, how long were you planning to stay? Ethan looked at Emily. She hesitated, then smiled. We didn't really set a time, maybe just until we figure some things out. There it was, the real plan. No time limit, no rent, no shame. I leaned forward. And what exactly are you figuring out? Ethan cleared his throat. We've had some challenges lately. My consulting business took a hit. The economy's been rough. Ah, the economy. That's what everyone blames when the truth is uglier. I said softly. And Emily, what do you do? I'm between things, she said, crossing her legs. I help Ethan with his projects. Translation. No job, but full control. I smiled. That sounds stressful. She smiled back. We manage. The air between us felt thick, polite smiles hiding sharp thoughts. I stirred my coffee and let the silence stretch. The way my therapist once taught me, silence makes liars uncomfortable. Ethan finally broke it. Mom, we're not here to fight. We just thought, since you've come into money, maybe we could start fresh. You've got space. We've got time. It's perfect. Start fresh, I repeated, setting my cup down. That's funny. I remember trying to start fresh 13 years ago, after your father's passing, but you never answered my calls. You didn't even show up when I was in the hospital. His eyes dropped. I didn't know what to say. You didn't have to say anything, Ethan. You just had to show up. Emily jumped in. We were busy, Barbara. Starting a business. Buying a home. Yes. I remember. I interrupted. I remember the housewarming party. The one I wasn't invited to. Her fake smile faltered. That was complicated. It's always complicated, I said. Until someone wins the lottery. Then suddenly, family becomes simple again. That landed. Ethan's eyes darted away. Emily's jaw tightened. But I wasn't done. You know what's funny? I said, standing up and walking to the window. When I won that money, I didn't think about new cars or fancy vacations. I thought about finally having peace. No more chasing people to love me back. No more begging for attention. I turned around and faced them. And now here you are, bringing all that noise back to my doorstep. Ethan rubbed his temples. Mom, that's not what this is. Then what is it? I asked quietly. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like two people in expensive clothes who suddenly remembered their mother when money entered the picture. Emily's smile was gone now. She spoke in that calm, cold tone people use when they're cornered. Barbara, we don't need your money. We just thought we could help you. You're older now. It's not safe for you to be alone. Older, unsafe, alone. They were using guilt now. Classic emotional bait. I smiled again. That quiet, dangerous kind of smile. You're right, Emily. It isn't safe for me to be alone. Which is why I've surrounded myself with professionals. Lawyers, financial advisors, even a private investigator. Their expressions shifted instantly. Surprise, confusion, then something that looked a lot like fear. A private investigator, Ethan asked. Why would you need that? Because, I said simply. When you suddenly have money, everyone becomes your friend. People start remembering your birthday. Old neighbors drop by with baked goods. And sometimes long-lost children appear with suitcases. The color drained from his face. Emily straightened up. That's unnecessary. We're not. I know, I interrupted. My voice calm. Your family, which is exactly why I looked into you first. Silence. The kind that says, we're in trouble. I walked to a small cabinet near the fireplace and pulled out a manila folder. I'd had it ready since the day my lawyer told me. Ethan had been asking around town about me. This, I said, placing it on the coffee table, is what my investigator found. Ethan's voice cracked. You had someone follow us. No, I had someone find the truth. Emily's eyes narrowed. What kind of truth? The kind that hides behind nice Instagram posts, I said. The kind that shows unpaid credit cards, a second mortgage, and a business that hasn't made a profit in over a year. Ethan's jaw dropped. That's not true. Oh, but it is, I said softly. In fact, you owe more than $200,000. And from what I hear, the bank isn't being very patient. The silence was so thick you could have cut it with a knife. Emily looked at Ethan, pure panic flickering behind her eyes. I leaned forward, my tone still gentle. Now tell me again. You came here to help me, right? Ethan's lips parted, but no words came out. You didn't come to help me, I continued. You came to save yourselves. He dropped his gaze to the floor. For the first time he looked like a little boy again. Lost, embarrassed and cornered. I stood up, my voice steady. You said you wanted to rebuild our relationship. Fine, let's start with honesty. Tell me exactly how deep in debt you are. No one spoke for a long time. Then finally, Ethan sighed. About 300,000, he whispered. Emily added quickly, but it's not all our fault. Ethan's partner stole money from the business. We were just trying to fix it. I nodded slowly. Of course, it's always someone else's fault, isn't it? I picked up my coffee, took a slow sip, and looked at both of them. Well, I said, thank you for telling me. That's all I needed to know. Ethan frowned. That's it. For now, I said. The rest we'll discuss tomorrow. You two can stay in the guest room for the night. It's been a long day. Emily looked relieved. Ethan looked confused. He didn't understand yet that this wasn't mercy. It was strategy. Because what I was planning next was something they would never see coming. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. The house was quiet, except for the soft hum of the refrigerator and birds outside. Sunlight poured through the kitchen window, painting the floor golden. It was peaceful. The kind of peace that comes before a storm. I made my coffee, sat at the table and waited. I didn't have to wait long. At exactly 8 o'clock, I heard footsteps, 2 sets. Ethan and Emily. They looked uncomfortable, probably didn't sleep well. Guilt does that to people. "Morning," I said calmly. Ethan tried to smile. "Morning, Mom." Emily's reply was polite but tense. "Good morning, Barbara." I pointed toward the chairs. "Sit, we need to talk." They sat down like students called into the principal's office. Ethan rubbed his hands together. "About last night." "Let's not waste time," I interrupted. "I want to start with the truth. Do you really think you can hide things from me?" He blinked. "What do you mean?" I pushed a folder across the table. "I mean this." He opened it slowly, eyes scanning the pages, debt records, business registration papers, even a copy of a police report. Emily leaned in, and I saw the color drain from her face. "This is invasion of privacy," she snapped. "No," I said softly. "This is protection. Mine." Ethan flipped through the pages like they might change, if he looked hard enough. "You had someone investigate us?" he asked, voice shaking. "Yes," I said. "After 13 years of silence, you showed up with suitcases right after my name appeared in the news for winning $22 million. What would you have done in my place?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. I leaned forward. "Ethan, the last time we spoke, you said I was too small-minded for your new life. You said family held you back. Do you remember that?" His eyes fell to the table. "I didn't mean it." "Yes, you did," I said quietly. "And that's okay. You were honest back then. I respected that more than this act you're playing now." Emily spoke quickly, trying to take control. "Barbara, we just want to fix things. We've made mistakes, but who hasn't?" "Mistakes?" I repeated. "Emily, mistakes are forgetting an anniversary. What you two did was planned. You cut me off like I didn't exist. Now you're drowning in debt. And suddenly you're family again." Her face stiffened. "We thought you'd be happy to see your son." "I was," I said, until he started talking about entitlement. I stood up, walked to the counter, and poured more coffee, mostly to give myself a moment, because part of me was angry, but part of me was sad too. I turned around. "You know what hurts the most? Not the money, not the lies. It's that you didn't come to me when you were struggling. You only came when you thought I could fix it for you." Ethan looked broken for a second. "We didn't want to burden you." I smiled sadly. "Oh honey, you didn't want to burden me when I was broke. But now that I'm rich, suddenly I'm your solution." Silence. The kind that presses down on your chest. I sat back down. "Let's be honest, Ethan. You didn't come here to rebuild anything. You came here because you're desperate." He swallowed hard. "We're in trouble, Mom. Real trouble. The business collapsed. My partner, Marcus," I said, finishing his sentence. He froze. "How do you know that name?" "Because my investigator found him. And he told a very different story." Emily's head snapped up. "What are you talking about?" I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms. "According to Marcus, he didn't steal from your company. You did. He said you funneled money out of the business account into your personal one. He found out and ended the partnership before the police got involved." "That's not true," Ethan shouted, standing up. "Sit down," I said sharply. "You can lie to yourself, but not to me." He sat, breathing heavily. Emily's face had gone pale. "Barbara, you don't understand," she said. "Marcus is just trying to ruin Ethan's name. He's jealous." "Jealous," I repeated. "Of what? The mountain of debt? The broken relationships? Or the fraud investigation that's still open with your name on it?" The silence after that was heavy, like all the oxygen had been sucked out of the room. You talked to the police?" Ethan stammered. "I didn't have to," I said. "They called me after Marcus filed a report. They wanted to confirm if I knew your whereabouts. Apparently, you've been ignoring their letters." His face turned white. They can't prove anything. They can, I said softly. And they will if you don't do something soon. Emily stood up now, her mask of politeness gone. So what? You're just going to let your son go to jail? After everything you've been through? After everything I've been through? I repeated, voice calm but sharp. You mean being thrown away like trash? Being told I was baggage? You mean that? She didn't answer. She didn't need to, Theo. I stood and walked toward the big window overlooking my garden. I'm not heartless, I said quietly. I don't want my son in prison, but I also won't save him by pretending he's innocent. Ethan finally broke. His voice cracked. What do you want me to say, Mom? That I screwed up? That I was stupid? That I hurt you? Fine. I did. All of it. His eyes were wet now. But I'm still your son. I turned around and looked at him. For a moment I saw that boy again, the one who used to run into my arms after school. And for just a heartbeat, my anger softened. But then I remembered the 13 years of silence, the birthdays he ignored, the letters he returned unopened. Yes, I said softly, you're my son, which is exactly why I'm going to make you face the consequences. Emily crossed her arms. This is ridiculous. You have the money to fix all this in a second. Yes, I said. I do. And that's why I won't. She blinked. What? Because fixing it for you won't teach you anything. You'll just find a new way to destroy yourselves. And maybe me too. Ethan slumped forward, covering his face. We just need a chance. You'll get one, I said. But it won't look like what you expect. I walked to a drawer and pulled out a new envelope. Inside it were 2 business cards. One was a bankruptcy lawyer. The other was a therapist. These are your starting points, I said. Call them. Today. Emily frowned. A therapist. We don't need that. You need it more than anyone, I said. You both do. Because people who abandon family for greed don't need pity. They need self-awareness. Ethan looked up. So you'll help us. I'll help you try, I said. But there are conditions. Conditions? Emily asked, wary. Yes, real ones. And if you don't like them, you can pack your bags right now. I paused and looked at them both. My son and the woman who helped him erase me. They wanted money. What they were about to get was a lesson. Ethan stared at me, like I'd spoken another language. Conditions? He repeated slowly, as if the word itself offended him. Yes, I said. Conditions. Because you don't just show up after 13 years, demand money, and get it. That's not how my life works anymore. Emily crossed her arms, her eyes cold but curious. What kind of conditions are we talking about? She asked. I smiled slightly. Honest ones. The kind that teach people responsibility. I walked to the kitchen counter, took my time pouring more coffee, and came back with my mug. I wanted them to sit in the silence, to feel the weight of waiting. First condition, I began. You both go to therapy, separately. Not couples therapy, not group sessions, individual. You need to learn why you became the kind of people who lie to family, use people, and think manipulation counts as love. Ethan frowned. That's not fair. No, I said softly. It's exactly fair. I spent years in therapy after you left. Ethan, I had to learn how to stop blaming myself for your choices. You owe yourself the same effort. Emily scoffed. We don't have time for that. Then you don't have time for my help, I said calmly. Condition 2. Full restitution. Restitution? Ethan asked, confused. Yes, I said. You pay back every single person you've lied to or borrowed from under false pretenses. Emily's parents, your friends, the relatives you scammed with fake business ideas, all of them. Emily's face turned pale. That's impossible. We don't have that kind of money. Of course you don't, I said. That's why condition 3 exists. Ethan leaned forward. What's that? You both get real jobs. Steady work. No more made-up consulting firms or half-baked investment schemes. I don't care if it's managing a store, working at a diner, or stacking boxes in a warehouse. You work, you earn, you rebuild. Emily laughed bitterly. You're kidding. You expect us to just, what? Start over like we're nobodies? I looked her straight in the eye. You are nobodies right now. But that's the good news. Nobodies can still become decent people. She opened her mouth to argue, but Ethan grabbed her hand. Emily, stop, he said quietly. She's right. That surprised me. For the first time in years, Ethan wasn't defending his pride. He looked exhausted, like he was tired of pretending everything was fine. He turned to me. Okay, let's say we agree. Then what? You'll give us the money to pay everyone back? Not exactly, I said. I'll loan you enough to start, $25,000. Half for a bankruptcy lawyer, half for a debt counseling program. That's it. No vacations, no new cars, no nonsense. Just help to climb out of the hole you dug. Emily's voice rose. 25,000? That won't even touch the interest on our loans. I shrugged. Then you'll have to do the rest the hard way, like I did when your father left, and I had nothing but a small apartment and a broken heart. Ethan looked down. I don't know if we can do this. You can, I said. The question is, will you? The room fell silent again. The only sound was the ticking clock on the wall. Then I leaned forward. There's one more thing, and it's non-negotiable. Emily's tone turned sharp. What now? You move out of this house, I said. Today. Ethan blinked. What? We just got here. I know, I said. But this house isn't a rescue shelter. You came here asking for help, not residency. You'll get my help, but you'll rebuild your life somewhere else. Emily's face twisted. You'd really throw your own son out? No, I said calmly. I'm giving my son the dignity of standing on his own 2 feet. There's a difference. Ethan rubbed his temples, clearly trying to process everything. And if we say no, I smiled faintly, then you leave with nothing. And I make sure everyone you've scammed knows exactly who you are. Your story, your lies, all of it. Emily looked like she wanted to scream. Ethan looked like he might cry. The power dynamic had completely shifted. For the first time in 13 years, I was the one holding the cards. After a long pause, Ethan whispered, "We need time to think." "No," I said. "You need time to choose. Thinking is what got you into this mess. Choosing is what gets you out." He looked at Emily, but she refused to meet his eyes. I could tell she was furious, not because of what I said, but because she knew it was right. I stood up and began clearing the table, signaling that the conversation was over. As I rinsed the cups, I heard Ethan's quiet voice behind me. "Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't turn around." "Sorry for what?" "For everything," he said. "For the way I treated you. For disappearing. For only showing up when I needed something." I set the cup down slowly. The sound of ceramic against steel filled the silence. Then I turned around. "Ethan, I don't need your apology. I need your honesty. Because until you're honest with yourself, no apology means anything." He nodded, eyes wet. "Okay." Emily stood abruptly. "We'll talk about it in the car," she said coldly. She grabbed her purse, her heels clicking sharply on the tile as she walked out. Ethan hesitated, then followed her. At the door he stopped and turned to me. "We'll call you tonight." "I'll be here," I said simply. "And Ethan," he looked up, "this is your last chance. Don't waste it." When the door closed, I exhaled. The house felt quiet again, but not empty, peaceful. I sat on the couch and looked around at my home. The walls, the photos, the sunlight. 13 years ago, I would have been broken by that conversation. But now I felt free. Free from guilt, free from manipulation, free from the idea that love means letting people hurt you over and over again. I pulled out my phone and sent a quick text to my sister Anne. "They came," I typed. Her reply came seconds later. "I told you they would." How bad was it? I smiled at the screen. "Worse than I thought. But I handled it." "Good," she wrote back. "You've waited long enough for this moment." I set the phone down and looked out at the garden. For the first time the air felt light, because now For once in my life, I was in control. That night, the house was quiet again. I sat by the window with a cup of tea, watching the porch light glow against the dark street. Every creak and rustle outside made me think about Ethan and Emily. Would they call? Would they walk away for good? A part of me hoped they wouldn't. Another part prayed they would. I'd spent 13 years trying to let go of the hurt my son caused me. Now he was back, not for love, but for rescue. Still, I couldn't stop the ache inside my chest, that small, foolish part of me that still wanted to believe he could change. By the time the clock struck 10, I had my answer. The phone rang. "Mom?" Ethan's voice sounded smaller than I remembered. "Yes, we talked. We accept your conditions." I leaned back in my chair. "Both of you?" "Yes. Emily agrees too. We'll start the process tomorrow. We want to make things right." His tone was tired, sincere, the voice of a man who'd finally run out of lies. "Good," I said softly. "I'll send you the lawyer's number in the morning. And Ethan, this is your chance. Don't waste it." "I won't," he promised. "Thank you, Mom." When I hung up, I felt something heavy lift off my chest. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel angry. I just felt done. I walked to the kitchen, poured myself another cup of tea, and smiled at the stillness around me. It was over. Or so I thought. The next morning, the doorbell rang. I opened the door and found a courier standing there with a large brown envelope. "Delivery for Mrs. Barbara Lewis," he said. "That's me." I signed for it and took the envelope to the dining table. The return address said, Denver, Colorado, a law firm I didn't recognize. For a second, my stomach tightened. Lawyers don't send random mail. Something about it felt important and heavy. I opened it carefully. Inside was a letter with a short note on top. From the office of Mr. Daniel Wright, attorney for Marcus Williams. Marcus Williams. The name sent a chill through me. That was Ethan's ex-business partner, the one Ethan claimed had stolen money. I began reading. "Dear Mrs. Lewis, our client, Mr. Marcus Williams, has been attempting to locate your son, Ethan Lewis, and his wife, Emily Lewis, regarding a financial dispute related to their former company. Mr. Williams reports that $50,000 was withdrawn from company funds without authorization shortly before the partnership was dissolved. He has since provided full evidence of this transaction to the district attorney's office. However, before pursuing formal criminal charges, Mr. Williams wishes to extend one final opportunity for restitution. He has requested we contact you. As we understand, you are now in contact with your son. Please note, the deadline for voluntary repayment is tomorrow at 5 p.m. If no payment or legal communication is received by then, charges will proceed." I set the letter down slowly. For a few seconds, the world seemed to stop. Tomorrow, at 5. The timing couldn't have been more ironic. Just one day after Ethan decided to change. I sat back, staring at the paper. So this was it. The truth, finally written in ink. Ethan hadn't been the victim. He'd been the thief. I picked up my phone, hands trembling slightly, and called the number at the bottom of the letter. "Good morning," a woman answered. "Wright and Associates Law. This is Barbara Lewis," I said. "I just received a letter from your office regarding my son Ethan." She paused. "Ah, yes, Mrs. Lewis. Mr. Wright mentioned that you might call. Would you like to speak with him?" "Yes, please." After a short hold, a man's calm voice came on the line. "Mrs. Lewis, thank you for calling. I assume you've read our letter?" "I have," I said. "And I believe what you're saying is true." There was a pause, as if I'd caught him off guard. "That's rare," he said quietly. "Most parents deny it." "I've spent 13 years learning what denial costs," I replied. He chuckled softly. "I respect that. Look, Mrs. Lewis, my client isn't trying to ruin your son. He just wants his money back. If Ethan comes forward voluntarily, Marcus is willing to drop the charges. How much are we talking about?" $50,000, plus interest, 55 in total. And if he doesn't pay, then the DA moves forward. And that means court, criminal record. maybe even jail. I thanked him, hung up, and stared at the phone for a long time. Then I sighed. Of course, just when I thought the storm was over, another one rolled in. By the afternoon, I called Ethan. He answered on the second ring. "Hey, Mom. I was just about to call you." "Don't," I said quietly. "We need to talk. Now." He must have heard something in my tone because his voice went tight. "What happened?" "Come by, in an hour. Bring Emily." When they arrived, I didn't waste time. I placed the letter on the table. "Read this." Emily's perfectly done nails trembled as she unfolded it. Ethan's eyes scanned the words, and then the color drained from his face. "This isn't what it looks like," he whispered. "Oh, it's exactly what it looks like," I said. "Marcus isn't filing out of revenge. He's filing because you stole from him." Emily slammed the paper down. "That's not true. Don't lie to me again," I said, my voice sharp. "I spoke to Marcus's lawyer myself." Ethan slumped in his chair, hands covering his face. "He's giving me until tomorrow?" "Yes," I said. 5 o'clock. Emily glared at me. "You called him? Why would you do that?" "Because honesty matters to me, Emily," I said. "It's something both of you clearly forgot about." Ethan looked up, eyes red. "Mom, please. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I thought I could fix it before anyone found out." "Fix it," I repeated. "By lying to everyone around you?" He said nothing. Emily looked at me, her voice trembling now. "If we don't pay this, he could go to prison." "Yes," I said softly. "He could." Then I stood and looked down at both of them. "So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to give you one last choice. You can take my offer: therapy, restitution, jobs, and now paying back Marcus. Or you can walk out of here and face whatever comes next. But if you choose the first option, it starts now." Ethan swallowed hard. "And the 55,000, I'll lend it," I said. "But under one condition. You meet Marcus face to face tomorrow and take full responsibility. You'll pay him directly, and I'll be there to watch you do it." Emily started to speak, but I raised my hand. "No arguments, no excuses. Either you stand up and face what you did, or you deal with the consequences. There is no third option." Ethan's shoulders sagged. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay. Yes, I'll do it." Emily sat silently, eyes down. I could see the war inside her. Pride versus survival. Finally she nodded. "Fine. We'll do it." I picked up the letter and placed it back in the envelope. "Good," I said quietly. "Then let's hope this is the beginning of your real second chance." As they left, I looked at the fading sunlight outside. The air smelled like rain. Tomorrow was going to be a long day. And deep down, I knew one thing. This wasn't just about saving Ethan anymore. It was about finally ending the cycle of lies that had poisoned our family for far too long. The next morning, the air felt heavy. You know that kind of silence before something important happens? That's what it was. The kind of stillness that makes your stomach twist, even when you know you're doing the right thing. I woke up early, even before sunrise. I didn't sleep much. I kept thinking about what was going to happen today, about my son finally facing the truth he'd spent years running from. By 9 o'clock, I was ready. I wore a simple gray dress and my favorite silver earrings, not because I needed to impress anyone, but because I wanted to remind myself that I wasn't that broken woman from years ago. I was stronger now, calm, steady, and clear. At 10, Ethan's car pulled up. I watched from the window as he got out. He looked pale, older somehow. Emily followed behind him, her usual confidence gone. She looked nervous, her hands clutching her purse like it was a lifeline. When they walked into the house, no one said much. I handed Ethan a folder, the letter from the lawyer, the meeting address, and the check for $55,000. He stared at the check for a long time before speaking. "Mom," he said quietly, "I don't deserve this." "No," I said. "You don't. But this isn't about what you deserve. It's about what you do next." Emily frowned. "Do we have to meet him in person? Can't we just transfer the money?" I looked straight at her. You want forgiveness without facing the person you hurt? That's not how life works. You face him. Ethan nodded slowly. She's right. We left just before 11. The meeting was at a small law office on the edge of town. The drive was quiet. No one spoke. I could see Ethan fidgeting with his hands in his lap, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. When we arrived, Marcus was already there, standing near the receptionist's desk, holding a folder under his arm. He looked surprised to see me with them. It had been years since I last saw him. But he hadn't changed much. Calm, polite, serious. "Mrs. Lewis," he said, shaking my hand. "Thank you for coming." "Of course," I said. "This is something that needed to happen." Ethan stood behind me, frozen. Marcus looked at him, then sighed. "Ethan." "Marcus," Ethan said softly. He couldn't look him in the eye. The lawyer, Mr. Wright, appeared from his office and motioned for us to sit. "Let's get started." We sat around a small table. Marcus opened his folder, took out a few papers, and placed them neatly in front of him. "Ethan," he said, "you know why we're here." Ethan nodded. "Yes, you took money from the company account." Marcus continued. "You said it was for expenses, but there were no receipts, no explanations. Then you disappeared." Ethan's voice cracked. I was desperate. The business was falling apart. I thought I could fix it before anyone noticed. Marcus's tone stayed calm but firm. "You didn't fix it, you made it worse." Ethan swallowed hard. "I know, and I'm sorry." For a moment, no one spoke. The sound of the wall clock ticked loudly between us. Marcus looked at me. "He's lucky, you know. Most people don't get a second chance like this." "I know," I said quietly. "That's why we're here." Mr. Wright leaned forward. "Mrs. Lewis has agreed to cover the restitution in full. Once the funds clear, Marcus will withdraw his complaint." Ethan reached into the folder and handed over the check. His hands were shaking so badly that Marcus had to steady it before taking it. 55,000, Ethan said. "Every cent plus interest." Marcus looked at the check, then back at Ethan. "I didn't want to destroy you, Ethan. I just wanted you to take responsibility." "I know," Ethan said, tears filling his eyes. "And you're right. I wasn't honest. I wasn't strong enough. I made excuses. I lied to everyone, including myself." Emily looked away, embarrassed. She had tears too, but she tried to hide them. Marcus nodded slowly. "I believe you, but you've got a long way to go before anyone else will." Ethan wiped his face. "I'll earn it back, somehow." Marcus handed the check to his lawyer, who gave a small nod. "That covers the debt," Mr. Wright said. "We'll file the withdrawal today." There was a long silence after that. No one moved. No one spoke. Then unexpectedly, Marcus stood up and offered his hand to Ethan. Ethan hesitated, then shook it. "Thank you," he whispered. Marcus nodded. "Do better. That's all I ask." And then, just like that, it was done. When we walked out of that office, Ethan looked like someone who had aged 10 years in 1 hour. But there was something different in his eyes. Not pride, not fear, just humility. As we got back in the car, he turned to me. "Mom, I can't believe you did that for me." I looked at him, my voice calm. "I didn't do it for you. I did it because of you. Because somewhere inside that mess you've become, I still see the boy I raised, and I couldn't watch that boy throw his life away." He nodded slowly, wiping his eyes again. "I'll pay you back." I smiled faintly. "You don't owe me money, Ethan. You owe me truth, consistency, change. That's what I want." Emily sat quietly in the back seat, her usual attitude gone. Finally, she spoke. "Barbara, I know I played a part in all this. I pushed Ethan to make choices he wasn't ready for. I was greedy too." I looked at her in the mirror. "I appreciate you saying that. But now, you have to prove it." She nodded. "I will." When we got home, Ethan helped me carry a few things inside. It was the first time in years he'd done something simple like that. Something unselfish. Before they left, I stopped him at the door. "Ethan," I said, "today wasn't about money. It was about honesty. Don't forget how this feels. The weight, the shame, the relief. because this is what redemption starts with." He nodded, his voice small. "I won't forget." "Good," I said. "Then maybe there's hope for you yet." After they drove off, I stood on the porch for a long time, watching the clouds move across the sky. For the first time in years, I felt like I'd closed a chapter I'd been stuck in forever. Later that night, my phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Thank you for helping him do the right thing." Not every parent would. I smiled at the screen and replied, "Thank you for giving him the chance to." When I put my phone down, I realized something. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means letting go of the poison someone left inside you and finally breathing again. And for the first time in a long, long time, I could breathe. The next few weeks were quiet. After that meeting with Marcus, Ethan and Emily disappeared for a while. No calls, no texts, nothing. At first, I thought maybe they'd fallen back into old habits. Maybe they'd taken my check and run. But then, 3 weeks later, I got a call. "Mom?" It was Ethan. His voice sounded lighter. "I just wanted to let you know we're okay. We started therapy like you said. Emily found a part-time job at a design studio, and I'm working at a local repair shop." I almost dropped the phone. "You? Working a job with your hands?" He laughed a little. "Yeah, I'm terrible at it, but it feels good." "Real," I smiled. "Good. That's what I wanted to hear." He paused for a second, then added, "I'm sorry it took me this long to get here." "You're here now," I said. "That's what matters." For the first time in 13 years, our conversation didn't feel heavy. There were no lies, no fake charm, no manipulation, just truth, quiet and simple. After that, he started calling every Sunday, sometimes just to talk about work, sometimes to ask about my garden. It was small talk, but it was honest talk, and that was more than I'd had in over a decade. A month later, he came by the house. Not with suitcases this time, but with groceries, real groceries. He walked in carrying 2 paper bags filled with fruit, milk, and bread. "I figured I'd make breakfast," he said, awkwardly setting things down. "You cooking?" I laughed. "Now I've seen everything." He grinned. "Emily's teaching me. She's actually pretty good at it." I sat at the table while he scrambled eggs and burned the toast. The kitchen smelled like smoke and butter. And for once, it wasn't awkward. It was peaceful. When we sat down to eat, he looked around the house and said quietly, "I used to dream of living in a place like this, but now I realize, you don't need a big house to feel rich." I nodded. "No, you don't. You just need peace, and peace costs honesty, not money." He smiled, and for a moment, I saw the boy he used to be, the one who hugged me after nightmares. The one who called me his hero. After breakfast, he helped me trim the hedges outside. He didn't complain once, not even when the sun got too hot. It wasn't about the yard. It was about effort. I could see he was trying, really trying, to earn back what he'd lost. And you know what? It showed. A few weeks later, Emily called me too. "Barbara," she said nervously, "I just wanted to thank you for everything. I know I wasn't kind to you before. I judged you. I said terrible things." Her voice cracked. "I thought money made people strong. But I see now that real strength is saying no, even when everyone expects you to say yes." That was the first time I ever heard sincerity in her voice. Not performance, not manipulation, just truth. I told her, "Growth looks ugly at first, Emily, but keep going. You're doing fine." Time passed. The seasons changed. Ethan sent me photos sometimes, of him fixing old cars, of Emily painting in her new studio. They looked normal, happy, even. He even started volunteering on weekends. He told me one Sunday, "There's this program that teaches young people financial literacy. I'm helping out." Figured I should warn them before they make the same mistakes I did. I laughed softly. "From fraud investigation to financial teacher. That's poetic." He grinned. "Yeah, well, life has a weird sense of humor." And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt proud of him. Not for being rich, Not for being successful, but for finally being real. Of course, there were still moments. Old habits don't vanish overnight. Sometimes, he'd call and sound tired, stressed, even angry. Sometimes Emily would complain that they were struggling. And every time, I'd remind them. This is how rebuilding feels. Painful, slow, but honest, because the truth is, rebuilding isn't about grand gestures. It's about small, quiet decisions that no one sees. Getting up when it's easier to sleep in. Admitting you were wrong when your pride screams not to. Showing up, again and again, until trust becomes habit. And Ethan did that. Week after week, month after month. By the time a year passed, things had changed. He and Emily had moved into a modest apartment near downtown. Nothing fancy, just a one-bedroom place with cheap furniture and a view of the parking lot. But it was theirs, paid for with their own money. When I visited, there were plants on the windowsill and photos on the wall. Photos of us. Me, Ethan, and Emily. Smiling. I remember standing there, looking at those pictures, feeling tears in my eyes. Not because everything was perfect, but because it was real. Ethan came up beside me and said softly, "I know it'll take years to earn back your trust, Mom, but I'll keep earning it." I put my hand on his shoulder. "You already started the day you told me the truth." He nodded. "You know, Marcus emailed me last week. He said he forgives me." I smiled. "See, people notice when you change. You just have to give them time to believe it." We sat on the couch after that, drinking cheap coffee and laughing about old memories. It was simple. Beautifully simple. When I left that day, Emily hugged me. A real hug. Not the kind you give to be polite. She whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on him." I whispered back, "Thank you for helping him grow up." On the drive home, I thought about everything that had happened. The lies, the anger, the hurt, and then I thought about now. The peace, the rebuilding, the love that had slowly found its way back through the cracks. Maybe that's what forgiveness really is. Not forgetting the pain, but deciding the pain doesn't get the last word. I parked my car in the driveway, stepped out, and looked up at my house, the home that once felt too big and too empty. It didn't feel that way anymore. Because even though Ethan didn't live there, something else did. Hope. And for me, that was enough. 2 years later, everything was different. Not in a movie kind of way. No big miracle, no dramatic ending. But in the quiet, steady kind of way. Life actually changes when you do the work. Ethan and Emily had rebuilt themselves piece by piece. He had become a manager at that repair shop, earning a modest but honest living. She had started her own little online store, selling handmade crafts. Nothing huge, but it was hers, and me. I had finally found peace. I still lived in the same house, the big white one with the tall windows and the quiet garden, but it didn't feel empty anymore. It felt earned. Every plant in the yard reminded me of a lesson I'd learned, that growth takes time, that wounds take patience, and that peace only blooms after you stop watering pain. Ethan visited every Sunday without fail. Sometimes he'd come alone, sometimes with Emily. We'd sit on the porch, drink iced tea, and talk about everything. Work, the weather, memories, nothing fancy, just life. One Sunday, as the sunlight filtered through the trees, he said something that stayed with me forever. "Mom," he said quietly. "You know what's funny? I used to think money fixed everything, but it doesn't. It just exposes who you really are." I smiled. "You learned that the hard way." He nodded. "Yeah, but I'm glad I did." We sat there for a while in silence, just listening to the birds. Then he said softly, "Do you ever regret helping me that day?" I looked at him for a long time before answering. "No," I said, "because helping you wasn't about saving you from punishment. It was about giving you the chance to change. What you did with that chance, that was up to you." He nodded again, his eyes glassy. "I'll spend the rest of my life earning it." "You already started," I said. He smiled, that same smile he had when he was 10 years old, the one that used to melt my heart. And for the first time in forever, I realized something. The anger I'd carried for 13 years was gone. All the bitterness, the resentment, the heartbreak, it had slowly faded away. Not because he begged for forgiveness, but because I finally stopped needing an apology to move on. Forgiveness isn't something you give to another person. It's something you give yourself, because holding on to hate doesn't punish them. It poisons you. And I'd spent enough years drinking that poison. Later that evening, after Ethan and Emily left, I walked through my garden again. The sun was setting, the air golden, the roses were blooming, their colors bright and soft all at once. I sat on the old wooden bench under the lemon tree and thought about my life. There was a time when I had nothing. No money, no family, no hope. When Ethan left, I thought I'd failed as a mother. I thought I'd done something wrong. But now, sitting there in that peaceful light, I realized something I'd never seen before. I hadn't failed. I'd survived. And survival isn't failure. It's strength. When I'd won the lottery, people said I was lucky, but luck had nothing to do with what really mattered. Money gave me freedom. Yes, but wisdom that came from pain. Pain taught me boundaries. Pain taught me patience. Pain taught me that love without respect is just dependency wearing a mask. Ethan had learned that too. And maybe in some strange way, losing each other for 13 years was what both of us needed to finally grow up. As I sat there, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my sister Anne. Just saw Ethan's post. He spoke at that youth event today. You must be proud. I opened social media and saw a photo of Ethan on a small stage, speaking to a room full of young adults. The caption read, "I lost everything chasing what didn't matter. And I almost lost the one person who ever believed in me." If you're lucky enough to have someone who still stands by you after you break their heart, don't waste that gift. Earn it back. Every day. Reading that, my eyes filled with tears. Not sad tears. Healing tears. Because for the first time, I knew he truly understood. I put the phone down, took a deep breath, and smiled to myself. I wasn't just proud of my son. I was proud of me, for surviving, for forgiving, for setting boundaries without losing compassion. That's something people don't talk about enough. The quiet strength it takes to say, "I love you, but I won't let you hurt me again." That's not cruelty. That's wisdom. As the sky turned pink and gold, I thought about what true wealth really meant. It wasn't the money in the bank. It wasn't the big house or the fancy car. It was waking up every morning and knowing you're free. Free from fear. Free from manipulation. Free from needing anyone's approval to feel worthy. That was wealth. Later that night, as I got ready for bed, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. There were lines on my face now, soft reminders of laughter and tears. But my eyes, they looked different. Calm, clear, strong. I thought about all those years I'd spent begging for love, trying to prove my worth, and then I whispered to my reflection, "You were always enough. They just couldn't see it." I turned off the light, walked to my bed, and lay down under the soft glow of the lamp. For a moment, I just listened to the quiet, the kind of quiet that feels peaceful, not lonely. And before sleep pulled me under, I said one last prayer. Thank you for pain, because it taught me peace. Thank you for loss, because it taught me love. And thank you for silence, because it taught me to hear myself again. 2 years later, Ethan had paid back every penny he owed. Emily had grown into someone kind, grounded, and grateful. And I, Barbara Lewis, the woman once discarded by her own son, woke up every day knowing I was free, free from the past, free from guilt, free from needing anything more than the quiet joy of my own company. And if you ask me today what real wealth looks like, I'll tell you this. It looks like peace in your heart, truth in your home, and forgiveness in your soul. The money was nice, but peace was priceless. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, and tell me, where are you watching from? Because sometimes sharing your story is the first step toward freeing yourself too.